Hello everyone. It took a while, but it's finally here. The Season 11 Guide to Twisted Fate. In this video, we'll talk about what Twisted Fate excels at, his runes, keystones, item builds, and matchups, as well as things like laning concepts and general tips and tricks for him. I'm Coach Kurai, and if you're looking to pick up Dopa's one trick, I believe this video will help you a lot, so let's get right into it. Twisted Fate is probably the most consistent solo queue mage that occasionally pops up in competitive play, rewarding players who are patient with their gameplay and offering them a low cooldown point and click stun. With good wave clear, a gold generating passive, and a global ultimate, he is exactly what you need to dominate solo queue. Twisted Fate's niche comes from the fact that he has a global ultimate which threatens the entire map once he hits level 6. Topped up with a point and click stun, it will result in a cure more if used wisely. Aside from that, Twisted Fate also has a pretty good wave clear, making it easy for him to farm and to get free money from his passive. However, since the removal of Rod of Ages in 10.23, Twisted Fate has become much squishier and easier to be punished in lane. Where things like Orianna or Victor have a speed boost ability, Twisted Fate has absolutely no way to run when he's overextended, resulting in his guaranteed death. And although you have a global ultimate to teleport to gank another lane, you can be severely punished if you're not patient enough and misuse your ultimate. Lastly, while playing Twisted Fate, you must be sure to pick the right card. There are multiple times where I picked the wrong card and I result in either not having enough mana, not being able to clear waves fast enough, or missing a stun card. Moving on to his abilities, let's start with his passive, Loaded Dice. There's not a lot to talk about aside from the fact that it gives you extra gold after taking down any enemy, which includes wards, turrets, traps, pets, monsters, enemy champions, and minions. Do note that according to the tooltip, his dice is loaded, and to confirm that, I went and did 2 rounds of 10 by 5 CSing, and it's true, you get 6 extra gold most of the time while using this passive. Here's some numbers if you're into that. Wall cards allow Twisted Fate to send out 3 cards in a cone direction, dealing damage to enemies they pass through without any damage reduction, which means you'll always deal full damage regardless of how many enemies they pass through. You want to put points into this whenever you're able to, so that you're able to clear minion waves much easier. A couple of tips for wall cards: when you have 3 points in it, you're guaranteed to be able to clear caster minions in 2 casts, allowing for safe farming from a distance when needed. Also, try to use wall cards to hit as many enemies as you can, be it when they're stunned, farming, or in a tight corner. When casted, pick a card cycles through 3 cards that yield different effects. Recasting this ability allows you to pick a card for your next basic attack, empowering it with modified magic damage and set effect. In short, blue for mana and highest damage, red for an AoE slow and damage, and gold for stun. Max this out second as you need the extra stun duration when going for mid-game teamfights. Some tips for pick a card: I'm not sure how to demonstrate this, but W is always cycling even when not used. So if you're some kind of mathematics prodigy, then perhaps this is useful for you. That aside, while it's true you want to use your go card most of the time, there are situations where the other two will be more useful. Blue when you're low on mana or trying to hit turrets instead of champions. Red when you need to clear waves slightly faster or just sneaking one in towards grouped up enemies. Stacked deck gives Twisted Fate bonus attack speed and every 4th basic attack bonus magic damage. I like to start with E first. The bonus attack speed you get is invaluable when trying to hit level 2 first, as well as the fact that you can easily sneak in a stacked deck topped up with Electrocute if you're running that setup for a surprise burst of damage. Although you want to put a point in this at level 1, it's best to max this ability last as your other basic abilities are much more important. His ultimate, Destiny, allows him to reveal all enemies with True Sight, and recasting this ability allows him to teleport to a targeted location. Because it provides True Sight, you can use it to spot invisible enemies and hunt them down. Aside from using it aggressively to gank side lanes, you can also use Destiny to escape from tricky situations, while also providing information as to where the enemy is. Put a point in this whenever you're allowed to. For runes and keystones, I've tested both Electrocute and Spellbook, and trust me on this one, it's more consistent to go for Spellbook on Twisted Fate than Electrocute. Let's go through each setup before hearing my conclusion on both of them. At first, I thought Electrocute was the go-to setup for Twisted Fate, but after running a good amount of games on him with Spellbook, I find it to be so much more consistent than the former. The simple answer: Spellbook prevents you from dying that much easier and it's more flexible. You have more leeway to be more aggressive in lane, while also having options for summoner spells to deal with the current matchup. Using Spellbook, you want to go for Flash and Teleport as your initial spells, and swap out to the following spells as followed. Ignite for your first exchange or before using Destiny, Cleanse Spring against heavy crowd control, Exhaust while dealing with high bursts of damage. On towards Electrocute. Even though I think Spellbook is much more consistent, I do believe Electrocute can be quite niche in certain situations. Contrary to what Electrocute does, you want to be more cautious since you'll be taking Ignite alongside with it, which means you lack the safety net that Spellbook and Teleport provides. In reality, I believe that Electrocute is used to punish assassins that get too ahead of themselves, and also having that extra burst of damage feels nice when using Destiny to secure a kill. For items, you want to either start Doran's Spring as a standard or Corrupting Pot when you're against melee matchups or need to sustain. Get Lost Chapter or Hextech Alternator when going back for your first base, depending on whether you're buying Luden's Tempest or Hextech Rocket Belt. I believe Rocket Belt is better, but if you find yourself struggling with mana issues, going for Luden's Tempest isn't as bad. Lich Bane as second course since Twisted Fate relies a lot on basic attacks with his W. In the case of Rapid Fire Cannon, I believe it almost becomes a staple on him since it extends his basic attack range, allowing for a long range go card. Zhonya's is amazing if you're dealing with huge threats such as Fizz or Zed or want to pull off a dangerous flank alone. Unique to Twisted Fate, I believe rushing early tier 2 boots isn't too awful since he lacks movement abilities but benefits a lot from it. Depending on your matchups, you want to be buying boots that best match the situation. Matchup wise, there's actually quite a few that are quite difficult for him, but I've decided to just include the ones that requires a lot of games to get used to or to understand. I believe champions like Victor or Nivea are also quite difficult to play against, but I like to believe that it's because of the current patch that makes both of them OP temporarily. Speaking of which, I realize I haven't been describing each matchup in detail, so do let me know in the comments if there's any particular matchups that needs more explaining. A couple of laning concepts that if you abide by, you should have no problem playing Twisted Fate. First and foremost, never use your W without a good reason, and if you do, remember to play cautiously as W is your only low-key defensive and offensive tool. Don't be afraid to trade with basic attacks, more so if stacked deck is available as its base damage is quite high. At level 5, you must recall to get better items and to refill your resources. Doing so will allow you to have a better chance of securing a kill with Destiny. This is one of the, if not most, important concepts you need to learn as Twisted Fate. Let's talk tips and tricks for Twisted Fate. These are simple but crucial tips that will push you into a better Twisted Fate player. The most common mistakes that people make when playing Twisted Fate is pulling out a gold card and trying to hit the enemy under their turret but instead hitting the turret. There's two ways to go over this. Either go to your settings and configure your target champion's Oni setting, or A-click onto the ground with your cursor closest to the enemy champion. The next important tip, you need to get comfortable with split pushing. It's so important that it will either make or break your games. As Twisted Fate, one of the most crucial mistakes people do is that they don't split push enough and ARAM with their team, or they split push and die, both resulting in terribly slow and painful losses. You need to get comfortable with split pushing and pulling enemies towards the side lane that you are split pushing. When that happens, use that opportunity to look for a potential 5v4 with Destiny, as the responding laner will have a hard time trying to get back to their team. If no one comes to contest your split push, you're able to freely farm and potentially get turrets for free. So, in conclusion, if you want to be patient and get rewarded for it, as well as having a on-click stun card, being able to get free money, and a global ultimate, Twisted Fate is your go-to champion right here. This guy took a while. I was really having some issues trying to figure out how Twisted Fate work. In fact, I had a good amount of games where I just hard entered on him. He was actually very difficult to understand after the removal of Rod of Ages. There are things you couldn't do. Uh, Without Rod of Ages, you couldn't be much more aggressive. You get punished so much easier. Although I do think like Twisted Fate, if played right, is probably one of the most consistent mid laners in solo queue right now. Mainly because he has a really good farming pattern. You don't really have to walk up to CS after having 3 points in your raw cards. As well as again the fact that he has a global ultimate and a short cooldown stun ability, click and point stun ability, by the way. So yeah, like you guys made it here again. It's New Year's actually, kind of delayed. It's kind of late. It's 12 days after New Year's. But hey, we've made it here. It's another year, 2021. Lots of plans to be made. Hopefully, I'll be making much more of these guides. Uh, I'm having a hard time trying to go through my schedule right now because I'm kind of moving out right now. But after everything is settled down, I'll probably be trying to make at least 2 videos a week. So look forward into that. Till then, I'm gonna sign off now. Hope this guide helped you out on becoming a better Twisted Fate player. And as always, my guides are always just beginner guides for people who want to go into the game, who want to learn the game without any long delays. I want to help them get up to speed with the champion they want to play, they want to learn. And yeah, if you guys have any questions at all, details you want me to explain, feel free to put it in the comments. I will always try to answer all of the questions. So, until next time, peace out and have a great one, guys.